Before I get into our story, I want you to think about a statement that we make all the time. It's probably a statement that you even made today. And that statement is, it's not fair. I made that statement all the time growing up. I've got 5 brothers and sisters, and so it was easy to say something wasn't fair. My brother or sister got to do something that I didn't. The worst was, of course, when I got in trouble for something they started. It just wasn't fair. As we get into our story now, I want you to think about that statement, is it fair? We're going to look at Jesus as he was arrested, tried, and crucified. Was it fair? And if it wasn't, why didn't Jesus stop it? But before we get into the story, let's look at Jesus' heart as he prepares to be arrested and tried. Jesus was with his disciples, and he prayed to God, and he said this, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." Jesus knew the cross was coming, and so he prayed to his Father and said, "If it's your will, take this cup from me. Take this suffering, take this pain, take this death away from me." But Jesus prayed not his will, but his Father's will in this moment. So as we get into the story, I've got some signs with me to help us think about, is it fair? No or yes? So to start with, Jesus was arrested. Had he done anything wrong? Did he deserve to be arrested? Well, no, of course not. But Jesus didn't stop them. In fact, when one of his disciples tried to defend him, he rebuked his disciple and said, "Stop." Jesus said yes to being arrested. And then when he stood on trial, people made up lies and false claims about him. Did Jesus tell them that these were lies? Did Jesus try to correct them? No. Jesus was silent. Jesus allowed them to make false claims about him and say things that were untrue. Jesus said yes to being misunderstood and to being lied about. And then when Jesus was taken to Pilate, and he was beat, and he was whipped, and he was bruised, could Jesus have stopped it? Yes, he could. It says with one word, there could have been dozens and dozens and hundreds of angels that could have come and stopped it in an instant. But he didn't. Jesus was willing to say yes to the suffering, to the beating, to the crown of thorns. Was it fair? Did Jesus deserve that? Had Jesus done anything to be beaten, whipped, and broken and bruised and hurt? No. He had never mistreated someone. He had never sinned against God or against others. And now we come to the most difficult part, the crucifixion, the cross. Jesus is forced to carry the cross outside of the city. He's so hurt and beat up that they have to get someone to help him. And he gets there, and they take his hands, and they take his feet, and they nail him to the cross, and they lift him up. And even there, people hurl insults and yell at him and say, "Jesus, save yourself, come down, show that you're the Son of God." Jesus says no. Jesus says yes to the cross, to the death that he was to die. Even the 2 criminals that were next to him, it says that they hurled insults at him, and one of them said, "Save us, get us down from here." Still, Jesus said no. All the power in the world. Jesus had the ability to come down from that cross, but he didn't, because he said no to his will and yes to the will of the Father. And so as he's on the cross and he comes to the end of his life, he does say yes at the end. He says, "It is finished. I've fulfilled the will of the Father. I've given my life for the sins of others." And so I come back to the question, is it fair? Was it fair for Jesus to be arrested, to be beat, to be crucified, to die? No, it wasn't fair. He didn't deserve any of that. But it also isn't fair that we would receive forgiveness and new life through Jesus. We don't deserve it. We can't earn it. We didn't do anything in that moment. And yet God gives us forgiveness through the unfair death of Jesus. In 2 Corinthians 5:21 it says, God made him, referring to Jesus, God made him who knew no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. No, that day it was not fair, but it was good. It was good for all those who would cry out to God and seek forgiveness through the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ.